Spring is in the air and I am making some delicious treats and meals for my family this week and also starting my spring garden. The only problem is I haven't touched my garden in over a year and it is a mess. So in this video, we're gonna give my garden some much needed TLC and plant some vegetables that will become future delicious meals for our family. This is a big and somewhat overwhelming process. I am so utterly exhausted right now, but I am determined to learn and put in the work so that I can have a thriving garden and make my family delicious meals using food straight from our yard. All right, the time has come. Today I am planting my spring garden and I feel a little overwhelmed because I don't know where to begin, but I have an idea of what I want to do. I have a helper today, a couple of helpers, so let's get going.
Hi.
Hello boys.
Hi.
We're getting to work. This is the space we're working with. I'm gonna try and turn this into a beautiful garden. I just haven't touched it in a long time. All right, so we have a plan. The question is my tiller gonna start? Probably not. I think I need to start it when I get out there instead of right now. The first order of business is digging up these garden beds and just trying to create a clean row and remove as many of the weeds as we can. The ground here is really soft, especially for Georgia. We think it's because the previous owners had chickens in this area. This soil is so soft and good. I did also add some compost to this area last year, but I didn't do a lot, so I'm happy to see it looking like this. We're just removing some of these T-posts now and trying to make space for fresh garden beds. Okay, so that goes on, and then I'm trying to remember. This thing has been in storage for the past year and I don't fully know how to maintain this kind of equipment, and so I really didn't know if it was gonna start for me or not. I'm so glad it worked because we were getting tired and I just decided to till up this area and we'll take care of just pulling out the weeds by hand once the soil is broken up and soft. You can see my fence is starting to lean and fall that way. I'm not going to do anything about it right now, but I'm going to try and clean up this area and get rid of a lot of these leaves because I'm wondering if that's what's keeping the ground like super wet. I'll just try and clean it up and make it look better. I have such a long way to go on this garden, but the point of today was just to get some onions planted. We're gonna edge out the garden beds and pull up the weeds and clean it up as best we can as time goes on. I would really like to get some pavers and some step stones, but for today we're not spending any money. We're just digging and using what we have to get this garden going. I do think the hardest part of any project is just getting started, so if you can just knock that out and not overthink it, I think that's the best way to go. I am so utterly exhausted right now and we have just barely gotten started, so I may have overestimated what I was going to be able to get done today. I still need to do a lot just to prep the ground. I was just trying to cram everything into today, so if I can just get one thing planted, I think I'll be happy, but I'm going to refuel with some coffee. All right, friends, so Let's take stock of where I currently am with my garden. So the first year that we moved into this house, I was so excited to have so much space to garden that I did 2 gardens. One was on one side of the yard because that other side was already fenced in. It was the garden that the previous owners had. But man, I had a lot of trouble with that garden because it was very hard to water over there. I had to run a hose all the way through the entire yard. There was a ton of weeds. There was a ton of animals eating my tomatoes. Like, everything was growing, but I was having a lot of issues. So last year I discovered that the other side of the yard, the one I'm working on now, is a lot easier for me to work on, and the ground is super soft, as we've been discussing. So I'm gonna try and maintain my garden into one area, and I just need to figure out where I'm putting everything, but I'm focusing on crops that are easy to grow that I already know do well here. So I had a lot of success with potatoes, so I'm doing that again. I had a lot of success with onions, so I'm doing that again. I bought these onion slips from Dixondale Farms, which I've done before. Show you. They're basically just little dried out tiny onion plants. And they've been sitting in this box for like 2 weeks now, so it's really getting time for me to plant them, which is why I was in a bit of a rush today trying to get an area prepared for these. I really want to get these in the ground today if I can. Finish my coffee first. While I drink my coffee, let's chat garden planning. So I've had this box of seeds that I have had for a few years, and my collection has slowly grown. I try to grow some things that we will eat and things that I know that are fairly easy. And I start some of those from seeds, and some of them I start directly outside. And then for some of the other things that I don't get to, I just pick up plants at the store. I'm not super picky. I just want to get plants in the ground and see them grow. I'm more of a dabbler. I'm not a master gardener by any means, but I learn every single year that I do this, and I get a little better each year. My focus this year is heavily potatoes and onions and butternut squash and things that actually feed us, because I've discovered that they're not super hard to grow. And so I'm leaning into the things that feed our family, that I love to cook with, and that are easy to grow. Here I'm getting our onion bed ready. So in the middle, I'm digging a small little trench for fertilizer, and then along the whole row, we're planting as many onions as we can. I'm seeing a lot of weeds in these garden beds where we're planting, and so I'm already concerned about how much of a weed issue we're gonna have, but I'm just gonna deal with that problem later because I don't have time this year to make a perfect garden bed that is completely weed-free. I will research and figure out a way to address that problem as we get to it. We spent a couple more hours in the afternoon planting all of these onions, and by the end, we were so tired, so we went out to dinner and had a nice evening. I'm really glad my daughter likes to do this with me because she's actually a huge help, as you can see, and it's also some great bonding time and memories we have together. It's not pretty, but it should work. This is actually dinner time the next day. I spent the morning doing some more gardening work. I was trying to put some stakes in the ground to fix up my raspberry patch, since I heard you're supposed to trellis these up instead of just letting them grow all over the ground. Well, I am utterly exhausted once again. Gardening is so much work, but it'll be worth it in the end. So tonight I'm gonna make lasagna because I wanna do a really comforting, cozy dinner after all this work. And I'm actually gonna make ricotta, which I haven't done in a long time. So I just thought I didn't want to buy the ricotta that I saw in the store because it had all these extra ingredients, and I realized, you know, it's not that hard to make ricotta, so that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm measuring out 8 cups of whole milk that I'm gonna heat up on the stove with 3/4 teaspoon of salt. As you're heating up, you want to continually stir it to avoid burning on the bottom, and once it hits 180 degrees, you can remove it from the heat. I'm adding 1/4 cup of white vinegar, and I'm going to stir it around pretty quickly for about 10 to 30 seconds until you see curdles forming. Then you can let it sit. for the next 5 minutes. Then you can pour it through a fine mesh strainer until all of the whey and the curdles separate. You can let it sit for about 10 minutes. This recipe calls for ground beef and sweet Italian sausage. I only have ground beef and ground pork, so I'm using seasonings and sweetener to add lots of flavor to mimic a sausage flavor. I'm adding about a teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of oregano, a bit of thyme, sage, basil, and a teaspoon of garlic. Adding the onions and garlic, also adding a splash of white vinegar and about a tablespoon of maple syrup. Back to my ricotta, I'm just squeezing out a bit of that extra whey, which I actually didn't have to do, and then I'm adding it to a container to put it in the fridge for the next 2 hours. I have some leftover crushed tomatoes in the fridge, so I'm pouring that in, and then also adding in another can of diced tomatoes. And then I'm grabbing some tomato paste and some beef bone broth. I love it when I can use up all the bits of ingredients I have left in my fridge, and they all worked well for this lasagna sauce. I'm also adding a tablespoon of sugar, a little bit more oregano. All right, so my meat sauce is pretty much done. And now that that's out of the way, I can just let it simmer for the next couple hours, go get some work done, and come back to making the rest of dinner later. All right, so this ricotta, it's an America Test Kitchen recipe, and they're saying I should process 1/4 cup of heavy cream in with the ricotta, and that sounds delicious. So I think that's gonna turn out really good. It was a bit hard to blend this with the immersion blender. I think because I squeezed out so much of the whey, it was thicker, so you should probably use a food processor instead. Now I'm just blending up some Parmesan cheese to get a powder. I'm making the cheese mixture for the lasagna. So in a mixing bowl, I'm adding 1.5 cups of cottage cheese, 1.5 cups of ricotta, a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Also adding in some fresh parsley, a little bit of salt, a little bit of oregano, and that is your cheese mixture. And now you can start assembling your lasagna. I took a little taste of this meat sauce and it is so yummy. So this lasagna is going to be amazing, and since I ended up adding some extra tomatoes to this, and I had pretty much double the meat than I needed for the recipe, I'm just going to divide some of this and save it for another day so we can have lasagna or spaghetti another day and have sauce already made. All right, so I'm just gonna stick this in the oven at 350 for 45 minutes uncovered, and we'll see what it looks like. Now I have to clean. I've got my extra lasagna sauce all packaged and ready for the freezer. Now I'm just gonna label it, and I'm so looking forward to using this when the time comes. The lasagna is ready, and if you're wondering what my kids are up to during this time while I'm cooking in the kitchen, well, we are on spring break at the moment, and so the kids are up to all sorts of shenanigans. What's going on in here?
Hi.
Try not to knock anything over. Hello.
Hi. This is the food machine. This is the coffee machine.
Now I gotta get out of here too. Let me see if I can get out without breaking your house. Just gonna slide.
Statue. Okay, now let's see it.
Woo!
Let's see it.
My little baby dinosaur.
Yeah. Mom, over chairs.
We got chairs.
I used this to go before. It's okay. We can use them.
Everyone agreed that this lasagna was over the top good, so I'm gonna try and write up the recipe of what I did this night and post it on my blog, and I'll put the link in the description. But this was definitely a keeper. Can't wait to make this again. So yummy. And we were eating it with some homemade bread and butter. Such a good meal.
Oh, I don't like the red ones.
Really?
Yeah,
They're good for a potato salad.
those do not look red.
That? There. Oh, that's better.
A little more.
One more. Good.
Sweet potatoes. Oh, these ones.
All right, we've got our potatoes cut, and we're gonna go plant them. Pretty excited. Cover with 4 inches of soil.
Now get this one.
I think these are going to be our most successful crop. Maybe we can get popsicle sticks, but right now we don't have any. So these are all
Those are all.
Yukon Gold. Hey Siri, what do I do with dahlia tubers that I accidentally dig up in the spring? I'm afraid to mess with them. So from what I understand, you have to divide this. This is like the main dahlia. This is like the main dahlia tuber, and you're supposed to divide it. You have to make sure it has an eye and a neck, and that the neck is strong. So this one looks pretty good. So I accidentally dug up these tubers. I wasn't planning on it, but these are dahlias and I love them. So I'm trying to figure out how to take care of them and replant the tubers that are gonna survive. The ones that look like they have a neck and an eye, I'm going to replant somewhere and just see what happens. All right, so we had to make 2 extra potato patches to fit all the potatoes, but we planted them all, and I accidentally cut the seed potatoes too small, so I'm just really hoping and praying that they actually grow. All right, guys, my arm is dead. It's hard to even hold this camera. That's all the gardening I'm gonna do this week. I'm filthy. Don't know if you can see, but I'm covered in dirt, which is actually a really satisfying feeling. So I'm gonna go take a shower and get some cleaning done around this house. It was a stunning spring day, and the whole week is basically my dream week because the kids were home, everyone was together, we were working on the garden, the weather was beautiful, I had lots of time to make some delicious food, and I thought it was the perfect moment to make some blueberry muffins and whipped cream. So that's what I'm doing now. I will link the recipe down below. This is just a sourdough discard blueberry muffin, and I'm using freshly milled whole grains. The batter was a little bit more on the dense side, probably because of the freshly milled flour, so I just kept adding a little bit more milk until it was fully incorporated. This did cause it to turn a bit purple, which I expected, but that's okay. Now we're supposed to press the crumb topping gently. Someone's gonna get a good bite right there. Okay, so while the muffins are baking, I'm gonna prep dinner right now so I can get it out of the way. It's in the middle of the afternoon right now. It's pretty early to make dinner, but I prefer to make things ahead of time and just pop it in the oven when it's time to eat, closer to when it's time to eat. So for this, I can actually mix everything up and put it in a casserole dish and just like stick it in the refrigerator, and then later tonight I'll be able to bake it. This is a Amish breakfast casserole. I've never made it before. I printed out the recipe. It is from Scratch Kitchen. I'll leave a link below. It just seemed to appeal to me today. I had all the ingredients. I came across it one day and I kind of bookmarked it as something I wanted to make in the future, and the time has come. So basically, it is diced potatoes that I'm going to boil just a little bit, and then you mix together bacon, peppers, onions, I believe, cheese, cottage cheese, and then you add the potatoes and you bake it in the oven, and it's just a scrumptious casserole. So kind of an easy dinner tonight. I'm hoping that my garden potatoes do grow so that I can make this again in the future using my own homegrown potatoes. There's nothing more exciting than cooking the food that you've grown. So I am boiling the potatoes a little bit in salted water, cutting up my peppers and onions. All during this time, the muffins are baking. Wow, the muffins look so yummy. Now my bacon is going in the oven. Just gonna turn the oven temperature up a little bit to 400. And now I'm checking my potatoes. All right, these are just a little bit tender. They're not cooked 100% of the way, which is what I want so they don't fall apart in the oven. Great. Cheers. This is so amazingly good. It's like a cupcake, but it's not.
I'll eat it.
I love it. Just a little bit later and my bacon is done. I'm gonna take some of that grease and just pour it into the pan so that I can saute my peppers and onions in that. Like whenever you want. I'm making it now. All I have to do is put it in the oven for like 30 minutes. Oh, the breeze is coming in.
Every time I'm like, it's so much work, and I'm like, oh, I'll have all this stuff to do too.
Yeah. Oh, the breeze feels so good. Good, and I'll just wash your hands.
Sponsored one.
I like how simple this recipe is. You just dump everything into a bowl and then you bake it in the oven whenever you want. I will link it down below. So I'm kind of thinking that with Easter right around the corner, that this might be a perfect meal to make for Easter, as well as the muffins. So if you're looking for ideas for Easter brunch, I think I gave you 2 pretty decent ideas today. I baked this casserole at 350 for 35 minutes until it was nice and golden and crispy. And if you don't use bacon, you can also try using sausage, and you can add more eggs if you'd like. We all really, really enjoyed it, so much so that pretty much the entire thing was gone in about 30 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me as I got my spring garden underway. It was a lot of work, but I'm really excited about the progress. And I'll keep you updated as things start to grow and as we make improvements. And definitely I'll be sharing with you all the food I plan to make with food I've grown from my garden in my very own backyard. So if you'd like to stay in the loop on all of that, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.